All right, so welcome to the Systems of Life, the work-life line. So it's not work-life balance anymore, I've advanced that more, it's the work-life line. And this is just the beginner introduction, click to it, okay? So let's just head through it as part of the 6 systems of life, so it's part of this one here. So the journey, if your car's here, not going down through evil, down this way, okay? Derailing, basically, all the way down to a cemetery there, you don't want to be anywhere near that. Culture test, holding your line, you're at about level 5 out of 10, but up here, high performance, productivity, creativity, just living a better life, achieving your goals in life, all right, with your genetics at your pace towards your destination. So I'm talking about that line there, the solution, everything you do, everything you see, everything you want to be has to go through the 6 systems of life. There's the base level program from say white belt onwards. It's the root system, it's the tree trunk and branches, okay? All the podcasts, books you hear and people you see on TV, everything you hear from anyone has to go through that with your pace, okay, your genetics, okay? It really does. And that's what we call genuine factual reality right there. They're plans, they're measured and managed. They're not just talk, all right? I think we've had enough talk over the years. We've had enough 326-page books. We've had enough podcasts and people are still confused. And the Great Resignation is an awesome time to just reboot the whole of society from 2022 to 2040. So the work-life line, boy, I don't have enough time to tell all the stories in this clip, but keep an eye out for it in the future. There's some the people that have gone through absolutely horrendous experiences all the way to nearly not being here due to bullying, intimidation, harassment, stalking, and all the rest of it from just workplaces, okay? And what's happened is after that, they came out of it and went, you know what, I'm set in the work-life line. And one person studied for nearly a decade, organisation had basically a smear campaign against her. They basically were listening to the people smearing her on the internet. It didn't affect her health well at all, or the family. And in the end, they went and got lawyers, which was a very smart move. And now they don't miss appointments for their health ever. There's a line in the sand where they walk out of the workplace and go to their health appointments. Family, friends, hobbies, there's an absolute line where before they're more likely to stay back, do the old free work, this or that, all the rest of it. No. Once they truly understood that everyone within that workplace wouldn't stand for their physical or their mental health, wouldn't care how far they pushed them down the negative health pathway, they had a better view of what I call GFR, genuine factual reality. And so over the last, say, 30 years in workplaces with myself, when I was trying to stop workplaces pushing people through bullying, anxiety, depression, divorce, death by the means, domestic violence, stalking and suicide. And that includes stalkers at work, where massive companies covered it up and allowed their workers to be stalked, okay? And then what happened is you put everyone under the full test, every single person there and every organisation outside within society, calling everyone. You might make 40 phone calls, okay? Testing all of them, whether they'll spend $1 of their time to call, email, meet with whistleblower hotlines, human resources, managers, the whole kit, everything that was morally, legally, and ethically supposed to keep businesses together, to uphold zero harm, vision, mission, code of conduct, policy and procedures, all those statements. And on the outside, just for your base human rights that are supposed to be defended. And once you realize people say, oh, it's too hard, I'm not doing this, and everyone you've been sitting next to won't stand up and stop you from being pushed down this negative health cycle that ends in not being on the planet. They won't spend $1 of their time. It takes $1 to send an email, okay, not even that, all right? Or to go to a meeting with you or to support you. And then you find you have less than 5 people that truly, care if you're alive or not. And I hope you have those people. And you sit back thinking, my God, that's the current system of life we live in. So why would you spend any time with that group? Why would you trust them? And why wouldn't you just make a really fairly, undulating but rigid line with a point up there for your own health, happiness, beliefs, values on your path with your goals. And you can only do that once you're in GFR, genuine factual reality based zone, here, and you realize this group doesn't care because they're job, money, car, house. And if you're outside of that 1 degree line they're sailing on, you don't mean anything to them, but you don't find this out till you truly test them. And the test is down here, whether your teammates are going to stand with you, which is what we do in sport, and which is what Indigenous cultures have done for 65,000 years here in Australia. So the reason this happens is the pursuit of money. Let's be really honest with that. Now, once you realize that someone's card at the car wash is more important than caring for you, or leaves on the lawn is more important, than your life, once you truly test that, and I've truly tested it with 5 restart, reboot, rebuilds and refreshes in my life, okay? And some people haven't called me after I've done them 15 years in that whole process, and I found out they weren't a member of the top 5. So there you go, like stuff you find out even in your 40s. And so now I can map a more accurate path, who I'm going to spend time with, where I'm going, who's good for my health and who's not, all right? And these are based on hospital tests with doctors, so Excel spreadsheet land, university land, okay? That way, that might be spiritually and culturally on Indigenous land out in the natural world as well. The combination of both, okay? Old school, new school, both, all right? So there it is. Do you have a work-life line? How many people around you really care for you? How does your week look, okay? And I'll get to all that next. Does your work-life line align with where you're actually going? Do you have 4 or 5 people you can trust if you go through hard times, that they'll help you out of it? And just have a good look around at your life. But if you're going to set up a life through the 6 systems of life, the first one is you need to know where your work-life line is, okay? If you have no work-life line, and work knows you'll work for free every day, be called morning and night, you won't see your wife's anniversary, your husband's anniversary, your child's first day at school, you'll cancel your cancer test, you'll cancel everything. Once they know that, and they call that culture, you don't have a work-life line. And 60 to 66% obesity, 50% divorce rates, 3,000 suicides a year, 65,000 attempted, biggest killer of 15 to 24-year-olds, another spike at 40, mid-40s like me, and another spike at the end of life. Internet bullying hardly tracked, workplace still can't control, bullying, intimidation, harassment at work. So all of those stats alone, all right, prove that we have work to do in our culture, and part of that is setting the line, your work-life line, okay? And then once you've got that, you've got some structure, you've got a root system and a tree trunk and branches, okay, to then start putting the leaves on your life, heading that way. And so I call that the other 128 hours called life. And it's been disturbing for me to see in the last year or two, people finishing up their careers that have gone down through this 35, 45 to life, just work and then lose all their health. They appear not to have an identity outside of work, which means they react 2 minutes after a clip that I'm talking to you today with. Like, I'm not even allowed to talk about the workplace, negative health, stats from our Bureau of Stats. I'm not allowed to talk about it. I'm not allowed to talk about dreams, work-life lines, balance. They hate the word wellness, balance. It's wow. So they're coercively controlling me because they're sailing around the equator on a thin white line, which is supposed to be pure as the driven white snow, job, money, car, house, and you're a Jedi. And that's why we're having the great resignation, because a lot of people are saying, you know what, that's cookie cutter, that's Fight Club. I'm just sitting here thinking that's not the definition of life for me. So if you're in this boat too, and you are thinking about 2022, 2040, real change for humankind and natural world, you need to have a think about your work-life line and hold the line a lot more, okay? Because if you're not holding the line here a lot more, you're going to be pushed down through this way a lot more. And if you want more literature in that area, if you don't believe me, go and read Jordan B. Peterson's 2 books, and you'll soon find out that you have your serotonin levels smashed down through here like that lobster, okay? And if you're not standing tall with your shoulders back through there, you're just going to be prey basically for predators, all right? So I'm very, very clear about that with regarding vulnerability. I'll talk more about that in the future, but your work-life line sets this up, okay? The work-life line. And to give you another story, I know a person that was very successful by the age of 30 in monetary terms, and they she walks into a business and no one messes with them because they can walk at any time. There's a famous John Goodman quote in the Gambler movie with Mark Wahlberg. No one can F with them basically, okay? They've got the line. And the others know they can't pick on them and can't mess with them, okay? And that's really interesting, because then that means if they can pick on you and can mess with you, then they do it intentionally. That's a predator-prey relationship, just like when I filmed crocodiles out here for 10 years in the outback, and that means we're no better than any of those animals, all right? So it's very interesting behavior to start screening your workplace with. Very, very interesting there, okay? So one was psychological assessment with Jordan's work just then, and I just rolled a natural world, billions a year old natural world assessment with 200 million year old reptiles. And straight away, it shines huge questions on how people behave at your workplace and how they treat you, whether you're a prey animal or not. Because they should be happy for you to be happy, all right? Let's be really clear about this. And they should be happy for you to be productive and healthy and living with a work-life line, to see your wife, you see your husband, see your partner, see your family, see your children, have hobbies, have interests outside of work. The other 128 hours called life. And if they're not, you immediately know they're derailing your car and pushing you down there. And so you straight away know they're in the 99%ers, they're not in the 1%ers of people that are actually going to stop you from going down to a cemetery, turn up to your hospital, or stick up for you and call a whistleblower hotline, CHR, send an email, stand with you as a friend and teammate, okay? So that's a beautiful test. The work-life line sits right there. It used to sit as number 6 down here, but I put it back to number 1 because it's that important to set your boundaries in place, okay? I'll elaborate more on this in the future. There's a lot to talk about in the work-life line series, but I do suggest at the very least, this is just level 1, beginner creation story here in the Outback that might have 6 layers that might go over a lifetime. You might sort it out over a lifetime, but in general, if you're not happy, you're not healthy mentally or physically, okay, or spiritually, you're not happy with life, you're doing too much work, or you're not being treated well at work, you need to sort out your work-life line. So now I've put that on the radar. Now you're seeing the red car driving down the road. Soon you'll start seeing specific models you want to buy, and then you'll actually know what they do, how they perform, what's best for them. So you're actually heading down that road, yours, stopping people from here and stopping them from pushing you down that road. You don't want to be there. And you can do all that with work-life line, not balance. We gave corporations a chance to give us balance over hundreds of years. They made us turn up to work with colds and flus, okay, which we don't do now, and they forced us to do robotic, rigid structure at work without a care in the world. And now we've found out that working from home can actually be productive, which I've known forever. And in elite sport, we know that. So there you go, work-life line, hold the line, design a better life with it. It's part of the 6 systems of life. It's the first one, and it's crucial, okay? So if I'm here, I'm 46 years of age, 2 billion thoughts, 2 million words, 200 headings, and if I put work-life line right at the start there, it must be important, okay? So I want you to consider that. I could have left that out totally, but I couldn't see any way forward without that. So you need to definitely give people a line to stand, give them boundaries at work, and if you need more literature in that area as well, I think Brené Brown, Daring Greatly, lists a bit of that in there as well, and not going down the shame path through here, okay? There it is, the work-life line, about 3 stories. I'm trying to keep these clips down under 10 minutes. So about 3 stories there. I hope it makes sense. But I'll tell you what, if you go to work with no work-life line like I have, basically for 30 years, people just push you down there. Very rarely are you going to be elevated through here, okay? I've only ever seen that in Aboriginal culture where I work, which is great, and in high-performance sport. I've nearly never seen it in a company with normal people that haven't seen elite Aboriginal culture or haven't seen elite sport, okay? So for here, there's no way I'd go back into a massive corporation, massive business without a work-life line. Yeah, and a lot of people that are finishing up work in the last few years are now stipulating this in their job interview, and they don't actually care if they don't get the job. They have to have that line. And it's really amazing that the corporations weren't able to hold that, even with all that trillions of dollars worth of research, all their zero harm vision, mission statements, codes of conduct, policy and procedures. They still weren't able to hold a work-life cultural line to prevent bullying, anxiety, depression, divorce, death by other means, domestic violence, stalking and suicide in their own company. And they even cover it up. Even worse, they cover it up. Horrendous. Let alone 21st century slavery, pay you for 8, work you for 11, 12. And yet if you work 6 hours, you've been in front of human resources. You see there's no work-life line. Another company just got fined $100 million last month in Australia for 21st century slavery. And they make ads on TV selling themselves as really good humans. It's complete dehumanization. No, that's why we've got the Great Resignation. Seriously. It's the opposite of that. Okay, culture, it's the opposite of high performance. And because there was no work-life line and everyone allowed themselves for this to happen, but then they're probably so scared that no system within outside in the community was supposed to defend our human rights. They didn't have confidence in that system to stop these companies from doing it. And those companies aren't afraid of anyone here in business, government, politicians, none of them. They're not afraid of those organizations. If they were, they wouldn't have done it, okay? And then you could call 20 people and 20 places within the workplace, the full circle of life, and they didn't have confidence that they'd actually stop it, and it didn't stop. That would have been reported for sure. Anyway, that's the work-life line, part 1. I strongly suggest you have a good think about it and have one before you enter into life, one, and any workplace. All right, all the best with that. I'm happy. Part one, the clip's done. It's out there to help humans all around the world, and it'll definitely help hundreds of millions of people, maybe billions, go through less suffering and actually be able to plan their road for their health, their happiness, productivity, or creativity a lot better, and maybe even keep a few more marriages together, have better parenting, so a better effect on the community, and just have healthier individuals mentally and physically, which might even stop internet bullying a bit. So it's all linked. But thank you for listening. That's the work-life line here in the Outback as part of the Systems of Life Dream Time to Real Time.